presumably I don't have to spend another $60 every year to get the latest thing. Although
Presumably,
we still see
yeah.
that. Yeah, we still see that happen. All right, thank you for joining us in our beautiful new public access studio.
Paul, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man.
It's been a long time
my
coming.
pleasure. Yeah, seriously.
My return.
But the reason I have you on the show today for this week is because last week we got a chance to check out the Anthem demo, and this weekend I guess it's also coming out.
It's coming back
for everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, the last weekend was the VIP demo,
right?
For those of us who are worthy, and this weekend will be the open demo, and then there'll be another completely confusing release slate for the rest of the game.
I think it gets more confusing,
especially for EA.
game.
EA just loves to. They don't want you to know when the game's coming out or when you can access it. So,
what do you think of the demo initially? Like the game itself, at least as it is right now.
So aside from problems with playing it, if you want to use the killer app terminology, like it has a killer app, and that is the second you press the thumbstick down and go into flight mode, that just feels so good. It reminds me a lot of Destiny's headshots and a lot of how it feels to web swing around in Spider-Man. So it has that thing that makes you want to just do it over and over again, which is key for a game like this. And so I think building out from there, the designs of the javelins are cool, the sound effects and the visuals with fights and blowing stuff up are really excellent. And then it looks like there's a lot of customization options for you to really kind of express yourself and build the kind of Iron Man suit you want. So I think those tools all, everything people saw in the trailers, like they all hold promise and look legit.
But like you mentioned, I've been playing on PC, and every time I hit that shift key and I go into that
PC shift keys. What? Sorry.
Shift key. Oh yeah. Sorry.
I'm sure that feels great. Does your keyboard vibrate?
No.
I don't. What's the point then? That's like you're missing half the experience.
Yeah, but it's a rock solid 60 frames per second.
Well, is it really? I heard some people were having problems on PC.
No,
That's one of the remaining issues.
That was the other thing I was about to get to, is that like I did have some trouble like getting stuck on load screens. I know they kind of were trying to address that, and like I would load into a level and the world itself wasn't built yet, and I would get stuck in this weird in between space. But the moment to moment stuff felt great. Like not a lot of like challenging vertical stuff, surprisingly enough, considering you're like a giant war machine that can fly in the air.
Right.
At least that we haven't seen yet. Trying to give the game the benefit of the doubt. It's still sort of in development
for many months and potentially years to come, because it is a service game.
Right. Exactly. So that's why we're here, right? So it's like, what experience do you have with service games, and like what are some of your favorites that you've played along the years?
So it's funny, growing up I didn't really have a PC that could play games well, especially not online games. I mean, my family probably had dial-up forever, and so I remember for the longest time I always wanted to play Final Fantasy 11 because I was a huge Final Fantasy fan. Didn't know anything about MMOs, but the idea of being able to play a Final Fantasy online where you create your own character and go out into the world and kind of do your own thing, I was like, that's so exciting. Never happened because I never had that. So it was actually not until I think Xbox 360 where I really started to play games online. Outside of the Halo games, probably Borderlands 2 was the first one where I spent a lot of time actually playing with other people. That era of game, multiplayer was much more of an add-on. It was a thing that you put into your game because you didn't want people to go trade it back in. And also a lot of people were trying to chase Call of Duty. And so everyone was like, well, if we just have an online mode where people want to go and shoot each other nonstop, then our game is going to do gangbusters. And of course that wasn't the case. But I would say Modern Warfare 2 was one of the first games where, and that wasn't the kind of game that was getting tons of DLC or updates,
right?
But that was one where I was playing it, every week. And I think then in the PC space, it was really Dota 2 that sort of got me into the hype cycle of not just playing a game all the time. Because back in the day, people played Halo 2 online a ton. People played GoldenEye with each other locally. But Dota 2 was the first time where it was a game that would get constant updates, patches, new cosmetics, things that would keep you wanting to come back to the game, even though you'd been there for thousands of hours. What about you?
For me, I think the first thing that comes to mind is like same thing like Call of Duty or even like the Battlefield series. I was like, oh, cool. I'm like, it's the same game, but I get a couple extra guns and like a new map. Like that's really cool. Like it extends the lifetime of this one game where, presumably I don't have to spend another $60 every year to get the latest thing. Although
presumably,
we still see that. Yeah, we still see that happen. But like Fortnite was the first time I think I can recall where I was like, oh, let me like sign up for the Battle Pass or whatever, because it gave you an incentive to continue playing the same damn game over and over again, and giving you these like little extra rewards or whatever. But now, I mean, I've played Destiny 2, Division, But none of the service games for me in particular, and this is just like a personal case, like this is not like a statement about service games in general, but for me, being someone who plays it occasionally and not being able to keep up with your friends who are playing it all the time. I mean, granted, it's kind of what we do too. We have to play a lot of games at the same time, but not being able to keep up with them.
And that's been
left.
Destiny's big problem.
Right.
Is balancing a game for the long term so that the people who are playing every week or almost every day feel like there's a reason to do so and like they're being rewarded for that versus the people who you want to bring back every couple months when there's a new piece of DLC or a major new update. And it's you know, I kind of think of it, there's like three sort of ways to approach service games. There's one like the Overwatch model, which Overwatch has a progression system, but it's mainly just the core match is just fun to do over and over. It's like playing Smash Bros. It's like playing Rocket League or Mario Kart. And it's just that it's like, you know, the reason you can go be in love with soccer and just continue to play soccer every week. Then there's sort of the progression system, which is what I think Fortnite really nailed with the Battle Pass and why other games have adopted that is even where you have a game where you're trying to keep everyone on an even playing field, adding in new cosmetics, new perks or things that make it so people feel like they're earning stuff. And that there's, you know, they're making progress, things are changing, and so you want to go back and sort of chip away at whatever you're working on. And then the third one is sort of like story stuff. So like MMOs coming out with new expansions that are primarily like you want to see what happens in this world. And I think in large part, Destiny has sort of revolved around both the progression, but also sort of wanting to see a new piece of this universe with each new piece of DLC. And that's why when like looking at Anthem, I think it's interesting to see which one of those three core pillars is it going to really latch on to,
Right.
And then which ones will be incorporated but sort of like, you know, just because that's what you do. Like, will it have a sort of battle pass, or will its DLC be primarily story focused, or is it just really going to be about getting new skins and new cool stuff for your Javelin? It'll be interesting to see whether or not that it really is going to be story driven, and so you're really sharing these great story moments with your friends, and that's the fun part of it. Or if it's really going to be more about a sort of Fortnite approach where the story is in the world, slowly changing over time as there are new events and these sort of more granular incremental approaches, and that the core of the game will really be you and your friends flying around a swarm of enemies and then doing combos and then being like, oh, that was a great fight and look at all this cool stuff we got. And then I feel like those are the two main paths the game could go. And I think one will be slightly more disappointing to people if it doesn't have the story stuff. But I think if it is story-based, I think that'll just be, as Destiny and other games have proven, much harder to sustain over the long term.
Yeah, I think it has to eventually. Like it sort of plateaus eventually, and then
right. Like none of this stuff feels sustainable to me, at least.
Sure.
I remember there's a time when I was playing Destiny, Dota, Street Fighter V, and Hearthstone almost every night, all games, because each one would have like little things I could get done to make a little bit of progress. And it was like fun because on the one hand I was playing these fun games and I felt like I was doing a ton of stuff, but on the it was just like at a certain point you're just kind of caught in like, right, you feel like you're caught on a treadmill, and it's like, what's the point of all this? And so I think especially with Anthem, it's like, what are you going to be able to offer something so that you can pull people away on a routine basis but not necessarily try to go head to head with the Division, Destiny, Fortnite, Smash Bros, like all these other games that are demanding of so many people's time.
Yeah.
Like, can I get in and get out, and will it have been worth it?
Yeah. I guess we'll see.